This is part 2 of the video I'm making where I'm TIG welding these aluminum battery boxes for an e-bike. I cleaned everything really well and I'm going to tack weld in those cross braces, and I just have a little bit of pressure on those hold down clamps because if there was too much pressure on it when the aluminum heated up it would warp down. I thought the gas was on, but the gas wasn't on, so I wondered what was wrong. Here's what happens when you don't have argon. It also smoked the tungsten and the cup. So I'm welding 1/4 inch bar onto 120 angle, and so what I did is I just melted the bar down onto the angle. You'd call that a fusion tack, and here's what it looks like. There's one tack, melting the bar down. So now it's probably tacked well enough to where I can take it off these clamps that are sort of in my way, and I'm going to clean up that area where I tried to tack weld without argon, because I don't want to weld over that mess. So here's what I have now. I cleaned it up after the tack welds, including cleaning up the area where I had welded without argon. Now I'm just going to continue welding the sides there where the 1/4 inch bar meets the 120 angle, and I'm probably planning to just melt the bar down onto the angle. I'll have the filler in my hand so I can add material if need be, but I'm wanting to see it penetrate. So here's how I have it clamped down. I dipped my tungsten. So like I say, my plan was to melt the edges down onto the angle because I wanted to see it fuse, which resulted in horrendous undercut, and I'm going to fill that. And everything was going nicely until I got to this part here, which is where I had welded without gas. And look at that tremendous undercut. The bar was really heated up and it never did fuse. So I guess when you weld with argon it makes a bunch of contamination, because I still haven't gotten that to fuse. So this is the back side, so you see I got penetration all the way through, which I'm happy about. At this point I think the pieces are attached, and so I'm just going to fill it in and make sure that everything fuses and build back up that undercut with 1/8 inch 40-43. It took a lot of heat to get it to fuse where I had welded with no gas. And I ended up using a tremendous amount of filler material. And there's still a little bit of undercut, but I've used enough material there, and I'll bet you the back side is really blown out. At this point, the piece I'm welding on has had so much heat it's going to need to cool down. This is what the backside looks like. So at this point, I'm convinced that that piece isn't going anywhere. I've got penetration. At this point, I just need to fill in the undercut. But I'm going to let the piece cool down. So keeping in mind that this piece is not going to be seen, but I do need it to be very strong. At this point, the work I'm doing is just cosmetic, so to speak, because like I said, it's already on there. I'm just filling up the undercut. And then of course I'll grind it down like I do. So I'm fully aware that this is awful welding, but believe it or not, that's actually what I was intending to do, was to melt down the 1/4 inch bar onto the angle where I could see that it fused, and then just fill up the undercut with 4043. Like here's one spot there where it didn't tie in, there on the left by the sooty area. So I didn't get that to tie in. And at one point there I'll also get the sides here that I'm pointing out. I'll weld along here. But when I do that, I'll have a steel fence behind the angle so that it doesn't wash out. This is the before view of what I'm going to do now. I've become convinced that the bar is fused to the angle, and now I'm going to backfill the undercut. And of course I'm planning on grinding it down. One day I hope that I don't have to grind down my welds, but like I always say, I haven't been to welding school yet, so I'll just keep practicing. So that's actually what I was intending to do. And as you've heard me say before, I'm going to grind it down and it will be fine. So I'm going to grind it down before I weld those sides. At this point, those pieces aren't going anywhere. So the sides of the box warped. I don't know why. Right here it's warped, and over here it's warped. It started out as straight angle, of course. And you can see that I got lots of penetration. So this is what I have now. I ground it down, and now I'm just going to put a ha-ha stack of dimes on those seams where the end of the 1/4 inch bar ties into the angle. And it was a little warped, so I clamped it down to where when I weld on it, it's going to fix where it was warped and be straight again. So let's see if I can make anything that even closely resembles a stack of dimes. This is the seam I'm welding. This piece is already fused, so I'm just trying to put a Cosmetic stack of dimes there, and we'll see how it goes. I find welding aluminum very difficult. And that's just about the best aluminum bead I've ever made in my life. So I need to still get this area. I was using 1/8 filler. That seemed to work really well. I'm going to go get this area and probably call it good, but I should probably fill this, and I'm definitely going to get this area. I was trying to get some corner back there. I never could. I can't reach it. So I guess I'll have to hit it from a different angle. And I guess this is good, so I'll do the other side. At some point there I lost gas coverage, I don't know why. I used this TIG pen and I don't think it accommodates 1/8 inch. Oh yeah, it does. And my tungsten is looking pretty sick. I'm gonna get some new tungsten. Here's my tungsten stick out. Wonder if I should try balling the tip. I'm going to get this to tie in right here. And I can't reach this. So now I'm going to grind this and move on to the next phase of the fabrication of this box. Here's the back side. Got some penetration there. Here's the other back side. These pieces need to go here and here, flush up against the corner, and there's all kinds of E4043 in the way, so I'm going to clean that up in the mill. The vise in the mill does not open enough, so I'm going to clamp it directly to the table. The last thing I was doing in the mill was steel, so I'm going to put in a 2-flute end mill. So that's how I clamp it in the mill. I still have this spindle guard on the mill. It's going to come off someday. It's going to get in the way. Might come off today. So here I'm set up to remove the material that's in my way. I set the RPM to 1500, which is as fast as it goes on this mill. And I have a 2-flute 5/16 end mill. And I'm going to remove the material that's in my way. So here I'm trying a plunge cut to see where I'm at. So now what I've done is I've locked the spindle down to the depth that I want the material removal to go. And now I'm checking I didn't go too deep. And now my clamp's in the way, so I'm going to turn it off, raise the spindle, get past the clamp, keep on working. I had to take the base out and rotate it around because the spindle guard was in the way. So now I've got it to where it will line up with where I want to work. It's about where I want to be. So I'm going to touch off and go in and do my cut. My spindle speed is as high as it'll go, which is actually 1286. So now I'm going to set the spindle down really deep. Going to just go ahead and set the spindle down all the way now. Wow, that's really deep. And now I want to lock the spindle. So now the spindle is locked where it's really deep. I'm going to move along the X and Y axis so I'm not locking either one of those axes. I don't want to cut that much. Probably deep enough. While I was doing that, the table pushed open the spindle guard, which is a safety, and so it turned off, and I wondered why it turned off. See, when you open this, it turns off. So now I've made room for what I need to weld. So that's what I accomplished, was I removed all the extra material that was here, because I need to take these bars and put them right here. Looks like there might still be some stuff in my way. Looks like it has to go back on the mill because this one's not deep enough. This needs to be deeper, and this material here is in my way. So I need to, now that I know exactly where it goes, I need to go back in the mill and get rid of this here and make this deeper. Because like this one fits in good, that one's in the way, that one doesn't go deep enough, and this one's good. So you see how the mill leaves the welding fillet on there. This is how I have it clamped to the table. So now we've come to the end of part 2 in this video series of making this box. I cleaned it up really well with the mill, and while I was charging the camera battery, I welded on these side legs, which is the same operation as welding on these crossbars. And so now I'm going to make a part 3 of continuing to make this box.